But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question.
Justice would look like transparency. Justice looks like a simple phone call from the president of the university with some personalization that this young man that we entrusted to Delta State University, that you care. Yes.
I understand you guys are trying to find answers about what happened today, but can you describe the kind of person Trey was?
I actually have Trey's uncle, his uncle who's the pastor of this church, and he will come forward and tell you a little bit about Trey.
Thank you. We bring you a greeting from Living Faith Miracle Temple Church of God in Christ here in the city of Grenada. And on behalf of Trey Reed, and whom will be my nephew, that's right, and who I've been knowing for, let me get one of my mic, well, that'd be good, I'll use these here, whom I've been knowing for a very long time. He graduated here, I believe it might have been 2 years ago, or maybe going on 3 years now. He graduated. When he graduated, he usually come here, most every other Sunday he would be here to attend the church here. And he was one of the type of young men that he was very obedient. And when I talk to him, I always tell him, he always tell me that he had a plan for his life. And many things one thing he said he wanted to be a truck driver. He wanted to go to college, he wanted to be a truck driver, because that's what I once was for nearly 30 years. And that's what he wanted to be. And he would come here laughing, so joyful, a happy young man. And right now we are, along with the family here, the Reed family, we just want answers. We just really want answers. Because a young man like that, he wasn't a street young man. You know, sometimes we got people that in the streets and this and that. He wasn't that type of person. He didn't do any of those things. So that's why we are so concerned about what's going on. We getting mixed information. We're hearing everything on the media. So we just want the truth. That's all we're looking for. Because he was a young man, I really loved it. And so right now, that's what we're looking for. And I thank the Lord for my niece. Thank God for her and all of my relatives that are here on today. So that's about all I have to say right now. I thank you so much for your support and finding out, bringing the truth to the light. That's what we're looking forward for. Thank you.
The family is getting all of their information secondhand through the news, and we want that to stop today. It will stop today. And the officials from Delta State University, the coroner's office, you will communicate directly with this family and not through the media. And we want answers, and we're going to launch our own independent investigation to get those answers if Delta State University won't cooperate with us, if the local coroner's office won't cooperate with us, and hopefully the state coroner's office will cooperate, and so that this family just will not just, this happened yesterday, February the 15th, 2025. The media knew about Trey's death before the family did. Now, what justice, what right would you communicate with the media prior to communicating with this family as if this young man's life meant nothing? But moving forward ahead, we will seek answers independently from Delta State University and from the coroner's office, and if need be, independent from the state coroner's office, because we need answers as to what happened to Trey Reed. Were there should have been cameras at the university that could easily enlighten us as to what happened in the early mornings of September 15th of 2025. That's easy. A lot of the questions that we have, the answers should be quite easy to answer. Because if this young man was on the campus of Delta State University with all these cameras and all this modern technology, from the moment he left his dorm room or entered that campus, there should be surveillance of all of his actions. And that's what we want. Bring the surveillance, bring the cameras, so that we'll know exactly what happened to Trey Reed.
What year was he?
This was actually his first year at the university. Actually, I think he was just at the university 1 month. A brand new student, full of life, eager to be there. So the family wants answers as to how they sent this young, fun-loving young man to Delta State University, and now we're coming with the heinous crime. And as we stand here today, the Reed family, we're not going to point fingers at anybody. We're not going to call anybody any names. All we want is answers from technology. That's all we want, and then we can go to a different narrative. But right now, we're here, the family is grieving, and we don't want to point fingers at anyone. So as soon as the cameras and the surveillance comes available, we can have a talk, but with no cameras, no official report from the state coroner's office, how do you come up with actually what was the cause of Trey Reed's death? And we won't point the finger that someone's trying to control the narrative here, because technology and cameras will answer all the questions that all of us have. Any additional questions from anyone?
I have one last question.
Okay, go right ahead.
I'm curious, the family report that was released this morning, was the family made aware of that before it was public, and how did they feel about the results?
The family was not aware of the coroner's report prior to it being released, and at this point, we're not going to get into constitutional violations, because that's not what this family is about. This family has this church here in Grenada. They're pillars of our local society, and we're not here to point fingers yet. But we will have answers, and the possible constitutional violations of releasing Trey's name to the media immediately after this happened is a possible constitutional violation. And we will get to that. We will get to that. But for now, the family is asking for answers as to what happened to Trey Reed on the campus of Delta State University, which should have all forms of cameras and surveillance to answer these questions that this family has.
If you don't mind me asking, days prior to, did you guys talk to him at all? How did it seem like?
Okay. Days ahead. From all indications, and I'll say from speaking with the family, the days leading up to this, he was just as fun-loving as ever. We recently had Grenada Day here in Grenada. He was here with his family, and he was joyful and loving as ever. And that's what he's been remembered for being a joyful, loving young man. And when he went back to Delta State University, he was this fun-loving person. And our question is, what happened?
This is for being here today. So we want to talk about abuse of power, huh? Well, let me start here. President Trump's only expertise on crime is committing it, not preventing it, enabling it, not ending it, and covering it up, not cleaning it up. He is a convicted felon. He has illegally frozen federal funding. He has assaulted the rule of law at every turn. He has consistently violated constitutionally protected due process rights, and he has unleashed a corporate agenda to enrich himself and his wealthy donors. Right now, as we sit here, Trump is bending over backwards to protect Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker who preyed on children, and blocking the release of the Epstein files to shield criminals from accountability. In the last 10 months alone, he has pardoned countless white-collar fraudsters who ripped off the American people, often conveniently after they cozied up to him. And let's not forget, Trump pardoned every single person charged or convicted in the January 6th insurrection. That included 172 people who pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement. It included dozens of repeat offenders, people with prior convictions for rape, manslaughter, and sexual abuse of a minor. And it included at least 10 individuals who have already been rearrested for new crimes. So spare us the talk of law and order, because under Trump, that only means lawlessness for his friends and punishment for everyone else. Now, let me be clear. I care deeply about public safety in my district, in every district across America. Every person deserves to feel safe in their neighborhood, at their job, and their school. And if I may, there is some good news. Violent crime has been consistently decreasing across America. And yes, we have more work to do, but we also know what works to keep it that way. So if you are really serious about public safety, let's increase funding for violence prevention programs. Let's pass common sense gun safety bills. And let's provide additional federal resources to our local partners to recruit and train local law enforcement.
But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining. Yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you were already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe. I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacists, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs? You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody. And then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap. Because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there. Even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're gonna do anything about the white supremacy problem. The one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
Just racially coded drivel. We are hearing the same old fear mongering, the same misdirection and misinformation today, off topic claims, including getting rid of DEI in DC. And it's crazy to say because you can introduce DEI laws, but at the end of the day, you are not going to erase black people from the District of Columbia or any other place. And I just wanted to start with that. And let's be real, that's what's at the heart of all of these same conversations that we keep having about crime and underfunded and under-resourced black communities while they ignore crime in the White House and in their own houses. So I just wanted to establish that as we go through this. But Washington, D.C., we know is in a unique situation, especially vulnerable to Trump's power-hungry overreach. Their elected officials don't have the same resources and also don't get the same respect, incidentally, from members of this panel that they would give to their own elected officials. But you don't have the same protections, congressional voting power or representation as other states. That's why Trump is using D.C. as a test kitchen for all of the horrible policies that they're cooking up. As members of Congress representing those other states and cities, we need to be concerned about where he's going to target next, and we cannot roll over, shrug our shoulders, and say that at least the National Guardsmen are gardening, are picking up trash. We have to push back on this right now, in this moment, before he comes for all of our districts. To be clear, none of Trump's actions have made D.C. any safer. And just as a reminder, crime had already been dropping in the district without his involvement. He's been terrorizing D.C. residents with these mass and unaccountable federal agents and armed National Guardsmen. He's completely broken any small amount of trust these communities have with local law enforcement. Many of the National Guard troops are from out of state. They don't know D.C. any more than you all do, and they don't know the communities. D.C. residents deserve to govern themselves and have elected officials that are accountable to them, who uniquely understand D.C.'s needs and their concerns, but instead, Republicans want to micromanage people who didn't vote for them and do not support their policies. They talk a lot about DC and they pretend to know DC, but the reality is that very few of them have ever left any of the communities that are in walking distance of the Capitol itself. And I bet they've probably never even been. I remember last term we had a member talk about, well, the unique part of DC is that you all get access to every member of Congress, but I've never seen a member of Congress in any of the carryouts in DC. I ain't seen them at any of the Ethiopian restaurants or at a Caribbean joint, but that's neither here nor there. About $200 billion. A bunch of that these out-of-state guards in the road ministry is not a sustainable solution. That is not more sustainable than actually investing in these things, investing in our communities. We know that if you really want lifelong safe communities, then we need to invest the same way that these people invest in their people, and their communities, and their loved ones. Invest in these folks the same way, and stop talking about crime and fear-mongering these people. With that, I yield back.
The cover. So I'm starting with the AG. I want you to tell me whether or not it's lawful or lawless ignoring court orders,
That's lawless.
impounding congressional funds,
Violates the law.
invoking emergency powers when there is no emergency,
Unlawful.
sending troops without an invite,
Violates the law.
covering for pedophiles. I just threw that one in there. Okay, I'll move to the next one. What about revoking birthright citizenship?
Violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about violating due process?
Violates the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about what we see happening with redistricting that would in some way minimize, if not delete, the voices of people of color as they are going through and illegally going through this process? Is there a constitutional amendment that you can think of that is associated with that?
Probably many, but it is
Okay.
unlawful and unconstitutional and un-American.
Thank you. As well as, can you tell me if it is lawful or lawless to violate free speech?
That's lawless.
Okay, sounds about right, because, we had to have a conversation about Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to say free Jimmy Kimmel for sure, and hopefully we will deal with the FCC chairman. But the reason that I wanted to go through that long list, and that was actually not even the half of it, is because since this administration has come in on January 20th, they have engaged in some form of every single thing that I said on that list, even the part about covering for pedophiles. So my question is, why are we sitting here today? Number one, they already passed their bootleg laws, and it's clear that even the bill author is not well informed about what his bill does. Because as has already been stated, at the age of 18, you are an adult. So this idea that somehow 21-year-olds were now somehow juveniles under DC law, is that accurate or inaccurate?
It was inaccurate, misunderstood the way the law works.
Correct. Could not understand how to read the law and decided that they were going to rewrite the law and mess up the law. And to be clear, we were talking about judges being able to have enough discretion to decide whether or not they were going to give someone an opportunity maybe to clean their record, such as the bill author was given that opportunity under Florida law because his second felony was picked up when he was 21, to be clear. So he was older than 18. And under this law, if you were under, 25, so 24 or under, then the judges had discretion, correct?
But only in certain kinds of cases, not the most serious cases. And in fact, that discretion was, as we know, exercised very rarely. And it would have been an opportunity had the Congress wanted to talk with the folks who are involved in applying that law and seeing how it works, to understand that this is not a law that's out of sync with other states, and it's working.
Thank you so much. And the reason that it matters is because now the gentleman from Florida is trying to become a governor, and chances are maybe DC, once they get statehood, could have had a future governor that had a second chance. But since they don't want other people to have chances that they've been given, they want to just pretend like they are bigger and better and badder than. So I will move on because I am frustrated that we are having this hearing when we know that this administration can't take care of their own business. As we know, they recently illegally bombed yet another Venezuelan boat, and we may be headed for a war. We know that this particular president has decided that he wants to shake down people as it relates to the First Amendment, because he has filed not one lawsuit, not two lawsuits, but he has filed numerous lawsuits. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. He filed one against the Wall Street Journal, against CBS, against ABC, against the Des Moines Register. He is doing all of this because he wants to quash any speech that is not appreciative or lauding him, which is pretty much anything that's factual. So let's talk a few facts about these January 6th felons that should still be incarcerated because they went through the process, but because they were doing things on his behalf, of course, he wanted to let them go. So they released more than 1,000 people who participated in the insurrection on this government, many of whom had previous criminal records, like Mr. Theodore Mendenforth, who was convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, or Mr. Peter Schwartz, who had 38 prior convictions, including one where he beat his wife by repeatedly punching and biting her. Trump also pardoned Mr. David Daniel, who was convicted of production and possession of child pornography. Trump also pardoned Mr. Daniel Ball, who, quote, threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot. He also had a record for, quote, domestic violence by strangulation. I'm not done. Trump also pardoned Mr. Andrew Taki, who sent nudes to an undercover law enforcement officer who was posing as a 15-year-old girl. Mr. Casey Hopkins also received a pardon from Trump, and Mr. Hopkins was convicted of forcible rape. According to court records, he, quote, had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth as he humiliated her. These are the people that he decided to release in the streets of D.C. So if anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country, and it is a shame that we are dealing with it now, and now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.